Hello, students. Very good evening. Welcome back to my classes, Dr. Mani's English classes. Today, we will study first chapter of Flamingo, that is the last lesson. Has been composed and written by Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet was born in 1840 and died in 1897. He was a French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson is the set in the days of Franco-Prussian War between 1870 to 1871. Franco-Prussian War, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Prussia, it was the combination of three nations in those days: German, Poland, and some parts of Austria. In this story, the French district of Alsace and Lorraine have been defeated and passed into Prussian hands. Now, let's read this story to find out what effect this had on the life of war at schools. This chapter has been narrated by a schoolboy whose name was Franz. Franz was a schoolboy and he goes to school daily. The character and the attitude of the student Franz was very careless, and he did not pay attention for his further studies. He did not give proper and good value to his academic days. He was very careless for his studies. So, let's start the chapter. I started school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding. Franz, is the student of a school, and he was going to school very late that morning, and he was in a great dread, scare of scolding, that if I'll arrive to school very late, I'll be scolded. Especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles. M. Hamel, the school teacher, had given them homework to learn and prepare for the topic participles. Participles, this is a topic of English grammar, and I did not know the first word about them. But what was the problem with Franz? Franz was unknown to the topic completely. He did not know first word, anything to say about the topic. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. Running away and spending the day out of doors. For a moment, for some time, Franz thought not to go to school and spent the school hour out of the doors because he did not prepare his homework well. And obviously he'll be scolded because he'll not proper reply to M. Hamel. And the attitude of M. Hamel was very serious, and he was very disciplined teacher. It was so warm, so bright. As the Franz describes the condition of weather, it was so warm, so bright. The day was very warm, hot and bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of woods. The birds were chirping. They were making sounds at the edge of the woods, in the jungles, in the trees, and in the open field back of the sawmill. The Prussian soldiers were drilling. There was a sawmill. Sawmill, just it is a factory and shop where timbers and the work of woods furnitures are made. So there were some Prussian soldiers were drilling, they were doing their daily exercise in the morning. It was all much more tempting, attractive than the rule of here tempting. It is attractive. It was very attractive than the rule of participles, because this is the passion of every students in their childish days. They don't want to go to school willingly. Okay, it is just like a pressure for the students to visit the school and spend the time at least 7 or 8 hours sitting in a classroom. It was all much more tempting, attractive. I mean, this scenario was attracting me so much or more than the participles. But I had the strength to resist. I had the strength. I was very sufficient and enough to face up these challenges and hurried off to school. And without wasting my time, I went to school directly. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in the iron of the bulletin board. Sorry, in the front of the bulletin board. When I passed and approached to the town hall, there was a crowd, there was a gathering in front of the bulletin board. Bulletin board, it was the medium where all the bad news, all the information related to the war, all the battles, and even the draft and the commanding officers, these all information had been pasted through the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. Everything. The last battles, the drafts, the soldiers, here the drafts. It means forcefully or forcibly, people were forced to join the army to fight in the war. And I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? I did not stay there, but I thought, what would be the new information and what would be the matter now? What happened now? Now, then as I hurried by as fast as I could go. I was moving so fast towards the school as much as I could. The blacksmith, Watcher, the name of blacksmith was Watcher, who was there. He saw me and he was with his apprentice. Apprentice is the person who works willingly for a small wages. Reading the bulletin, called after me. He called me, "Don't go so fast, Bob. Why are you going so fast to school? You'll get to school in plenty of time." Ironically, it was just like irony, situational irony, because the bad news had come from there that our country has been defeated by Prussia. And we don't have enough right or any more right to live freely in our nation. So ironically, he says that don't go to school. You have plenty of time for visiting a school. I thought he was making fun of me, but I did not care him. And I thought that he was making fun. He was poking fun at me. And reached Hammel's little garden, all our breath, panting. I was running so fast, I was moving so fast, so I was panting. My breath was so heavy, and anyhow, I approached to the garden, little garden of Hammel's, little garden. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud with our hands, even our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. Usually, obviously, or as usual, when school starts, There was a great bustle, just you can say a great noise of the students, which could be heard out in the street, and it was so noisy that could be heard outside of the school. In the street, the opening and closing of desks. Often we can imagine when we go to school, suppose that we are students, our students come to school in the classroom, so they move and settle down their bags and so many things in the classroom, removing their desks and benches here and there. So the sound of closing desks and opening benches, these all could be heard in the street. Lesson repeated in the unison. Okay, just when we repeat, students repeat their lessons together in a high chorus, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and we put our hands on our ear to understand and to listen our own sound better. And the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table, and the teacher, they ramp and put, just knock their ruler to stop the students. But now it was also still. But the matter, it was very surprising, was it all were very still. There was no movement, no sound. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. And I was dependent on the commotion of my uh, visualization. I wanted that nobody would see and I'll enter in the classroom without noticing, without being noticed, sorry. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. But the whole atmosphere of the school and the classroom was as quiet as Sunday morning. There was no chirping, there was no sound of birds, even students, and not a single bit of sound. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places. And I was late already. The Franz describes that he was going to school very late on that day. And he saw his classmates are already in their places or already in their seats. And M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. And M. Hamel, his schoolmaster, was wandering here and there in the classroom with his terrible iron ruler. Now, I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. Franz says that I had to go into the classroom in front of everyone because everyone was there already in the classroom. So, how blushed and how frightened I was, you can imagine. Yeah, that's it. We can feel the sensation and the feeling, whatever or what was coming to the mind, and how did he feel, because he had to go into the classroom in front of every student and his schoolmaster, and his schoolmaster was very strict and punctual. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, till Franz." Here, the Franz name has been given. We were beginning without you. But there was no strictness, no seriousness and angriness on the face of M. Hamel. He politely ordered him to sit on my seat, and we were beginning without you. In the absence of yours, we were starting the class. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Now, I jumped over the bench so fast I jumped so fast over the bench and sat down on my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over of my fright. Just hardly I could control my situation and breathing. Sudden I saw what? Our teacher had on his beautiful green coat. M. Hamel, my teacher, was having and wearing his beautiful green coat on that day, and his frilled shirt. Just you can say it is the designing on the shirt, designed shirt you can say, and the little black silk cap. And he had a cap, silk cap, all embroidered. These all were designed that he never wore except on inspection, any special ceremony, except prize days and a special day. Okay, he wore these type of dresses on the special days, just like prize distribution, and when other officers came to our school to watch the classes and the atmosphere. Okay, what was going on? Just it was the investigation by senior officers and senior teachers of our school. Besides, except this, the whole school, the whole school was seemed too strange and solemn. It was completely silent. There was no sound, no movement in everything. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back of the benches that were always empty. This is very great and most important line. What was very shocking and surprising for the friends, it was that back of the benches that were always empty. Okay, in the classroom, at the back side of the classroom, the benches were always empty. But on that day, people sitting quietly like ourselves. Who people? How many peoples were there? Old Hauser with his three-corned hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several other besides. There were Hauser, mayor, just you can say prime of the village, were sitting there, and they all were quiet and so silent. They were not moving and speaking. What happened? Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer. Everybody looked sad. They all were very sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer. Primer, it is a kind of just you can say beginning book which we study and read at the beginning time of our school days. And thumbed at the edge, he was having it with his thumb at the end of the edge of the book, and he held it open on his knees, and he was keeping it on his knees openly with his great spectacle lying across the pages, and silently he was looking upon the pages so seriously and so keenly. It seemed that he was very curious to study and know something in the book. While I was wondering about it all, it was very shocking and surprising for me because I saw it first time in my school. M. Hamel mounted his chair. He sat. M. Hamel sat in the chair and in the same grave as he spoke when I came, and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you today." Politely. This is very shocking and terrifying that M. Hamel politely spoke that, "Dear children, this is the last lesson I shall give you today. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine." What does he say, M. Hamel? This is the last lesson, my dear children. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the school because France was defeated by Prussian, and they applied their own national language, that German language must be spoken and studied and taught in France from tomorrow. So this is the last lesson. and two states, Alsace and Lorraine, has been passed into Prussian hands. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. I want you to be very attentive. This is last lesson. It was last moment when M. Hamel had to give his service and dedicate his devotion for the students of that country, France. It was last moment. So he wanted these students to be very attentive and very curious to know what he was going to teach them. That's it for this video, because video will be very so long. So next matter and next further video will be launched. So keep learning.